I'm a big fan of butterflying the turkey, or what they call spatchcocking. Spatchcocking is really a cool word, isn't it? It sounds slightly naughty. But the whole idea behind spatchcocking is you get yourself a really good pair of kitchen shears, and you turn the bird upside down so you get the spine. Not the breast side up, but the spine side up, and you cut along the spine. It's kind of hard. You got to really squeeze. You really need good shears, and you remove the spine. Once you've done that, you can open up the bird and lay it flat. Well, if you lay it flat, now you can cook the bottom side. When you cook a whole bird, Norman Rockwell style, like Deuce did, you get the spectacular brown or golden exterior, but the interior is still pale. And one of the things to remember in cooking, and any cook knows this, is brown is beautiful. Brown is flavor. It's something they call the Maillard reaction. It was discovered by a French chef more than 100 years ago, Chef Maillard. Actually, it was scientist Maillard. And it's a chemical reaction where protein and amino acids and reducing sugars all change in the presence of heat. When heat hits meat, it alters the chemistry, alters the flavor compounds, and it creates hundreds, thousands of new flavor compounds. So when you brown a steak, or when you brown a turkey, or you brown an English muffin, you get new flavor compounds that weren't there when you brown coffee beans, when you brown cocoa beans. The browning process, the Maillard reaction, is something to be pursued, something to try for. So if you open up the bird, now that interior cavity can get hot air in there and it can brown. When you do it Norman Rockwell style, you can't brown, so you get more flavor. The other advantage of opening it up, and you lay it flat, now I know this doesn't look like Norman Rockwell, but it's still a whole bird, is you get faster cooking. Because when you leave it whole, there's that air pocket in the center, and it holds cool air. And it does warm, but it doesn't really heat up, not like the outside. A really core concept. You know, my book is called Meathead, but the subtitle is The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling. And if you've ever visited Amazing Ribs, how many of you have been to AmazingRibs.com? I'm just curious. Several of you. It is the #1 barbecue website in the world. Last year, 34 million page views. It's one of the top 20 food sites in the country. Really popular, chock full of information. And one of the things that we talk about in addition to browning is that we teach a lot of science. And if you have to, one of the core concepts to understand is when you cook on a grill or a smoker, the warm air cooks the outside of the meat, but doesn't cook the inside of the meat. The air does not penetrate the meat. The air can't get inside the meat. The meat is 70% water. It's fully saturated. Think of it like a sponge. The outside of the meat is what cooks the inside of the meat. The outside of the meat absorbs heat from the air, and that heat is energy. And that energy is transmitted down into the center of the meat. So the hot air cooks the outside cooks the inside. And because the meat is 70% water, it takes time for the energy to move to the center. And it takes longer than it does through the air. But it's denser, and it's wet. And so if you can reduce the amount of cooking time, you can save moisture. Because while the outside is heating up and it's pushing energy down, the outside is overcooking. Because if you measure the temperature of your turkey, and your ideal temperature is 160 to 165, that's where all the bacteria are killed, and you want to make sure all your bacteria are killed. There is an issue with poultry, chicken even worse than turkey. Consumer Reports about a year ago did a research project. They went out and bought 300 chicken breasts, and they tested them for microbes, and they found 90% had pathogenic bacteria, and of those 90%, half, 45%, had antibiotic-resistant pathogenic bacteria. That is scary. But you know what? It's not scary if you cook it properly. If you cook it properly, if you heat it up, heat is what they call the kill step. And this is a crucial concept. I'm married to one of the top-ranking food safety scientists at the Food and Drug Administration. So if you eat at my house, you're not going to get sick.
And the addresses?
And if you look at our website and my book, you'll know that safety and food safety and proper cooking temperatures are a core concept of what we teach. And in fact, I even brought something for you. There's a stack of them outside, and here's a stack here. These are all for you for free. But this is a meat temperature guide. I see a couple of them are floating around. But why don't we just pass these around, if you will. Take as many as you want. I got plenty of them. Pass those over there. Give some to your friends. Those are your meat temperatures for safety and for flavor. They're really useful. The one thing that you need to go with it is what Deuce had earlier, an accurate, reliable digital thermometer. How many of you have a dial thermometer at home in your drawer? Take it out in the driveway, put it down under the wheels of your car, and back over it. It's a worthless piece of garbage. It's a technology, bimetallic thermometers, that was invented over a century ago. It's not accurate. It takes at least 30 seconds to give you a reading that's anywhere close to accurate. Today, in 2017, in the digital age, a $30 digital thermometer will give you precision measurement in 4 seconds. The one Deuce showed us, the ThermoPen, gives you precision measurement in 2 seconds. His costs $90. Or actually, the $99. $99, 100 bucks, we'll round it up. 100 bucks for a ThermoPen, 30 bucks for a Thermopop, which is its little brother, for 4 seconds. Save 70 bucks, 4 seconds is fast enough. Get yourself a Thermopop, swing by our website, we have information. I have an electrical engineer who tests thermometers for us full-time. We have over 300 thermometer ratings and reviews. Which ones actually do what they say. Get yourself a digital thermometer. Nothing will improve your cooking skills faster than a digital thermometer. Nothing will make you a better cook. It's just so embarrassing to serve a great steak and have it overcooked and stand there at the head of the table and say, oh, it kind of got away from me today, you know? Or serve chicken that is undercooked and send grandma to the hospital on the 4th of July. So get yourself a good digital thermometer, use this temperature guide and stick with it. So, you're shooting for 160 to 165 for turkey, and you cannot trust the pop-up thermometer. It's typically set from 180 to 190, which is overcooked. That's called cardboard, and you wonder why your turkey is overcooked. So I like to spread it out, lay it flat, and that way it'll cook a little faster. You brown both sides that way, you get more flavor, and it cooks faster, therefore it doesn't dry out so much, and I think it's a little juicier. But one of the things I do is a little different, but very similar to what Deuce does, is I take that pan that he made his gravy in, and instead of putting the bird in it, now if you think about it, you put the bird in a pan, and what happens? The heat can cook the top of the bird very easily, but it can't get underneath the bird. How many of you are accustomed to serving a turkey that is tan and soggy underneath? The top is gorgeous and brown, but the underside is tan and soggy. And there's 2 little nuggets of meat called the oysters, right up by the wings. It's the pectoral muscles, right under the wings, and they're delicious, and they're soft and soggy, and they're often undercooked. Because down there in the liquid, it's much cooler than up here. He said 325. The air up here is 325. Down here, the water's not boiling. It's not even 212. It's 170. So you're cooking at 325 here, 170 down here. I will take it out to the grill or the smoker, lay that bird opened up on there, and then I put the pan underneath. Get 2 or 3 inches of air between the bird and the pan. Let the bird drip into that pan. Get those smoky drippings. Do the same thing he does. Celery, and by the way, don't throw out, you notice he saved the celery greens, didn't throw them all in there, but threw some in there. Those celery greens are great. Celery greens, celery, carrots, onions. I'll throw some apple in there sometimes, some white wine, chicken stock, whatever you want. I have measurements on the website, but you don't have to follow those measurements. A handful of herbs and spices, that rubbed sage, throw it in there, and basically what you're making under the bird, in the drippings, is a turkey stock. And it's just wonderful and rich. And when you're almost done cooking, you pull that stock out, you strain it, get rid of all the vegetables that have given their goodness up into the liquid. Throw some garlic in there. I almost forgot garlic. Oh, my Italian-American wife would kill me. And you pull that out, strain it, and that stuff is just an elixir from the heavens. It is gorgeous, it is rich, it is flavorful. Now, if you want, you can thicken it with a roux like he did, or you can thicken it with just flour. But I don't thicken it. When you thicken it with flour, it sits on top of the bird. It can't penetrate. Flour is a carbohydrate. It's a very large molecule. It can't get into the meat. I just leave it thin. It's a turkey stock, and I pour a little bit on there, and it penetrates the meat that way. And it's just wonderful. And there's almost always a quart or two left over. And that next day, that goes into the pot pie, or I just serve it as turkey stock. I'll just heat it up in the microwave and drink it in a cup. It's just gorgeous. It is great stuff. So that's how I do my turkey, similar to the way he does. The big difference is I butterfly the bird, and I put the pan underneath the bird so the heat can flow all around the bird rather than just over the top. It cooks a little faster, it browns the interior, and you get this fabulous stock. Both techniques are great. My technique, you don't have Norman Rockwell turkey. When you bring it to the table, everybody looks at it and says, you got ran over by a truck. So you can, if you want, you kind of push it together and make it look like a Norman Rockwell bird, but it wants to lay flat. And, you know, that's the price you pay. In fact, if you really are concerned about the quality of the meat and not the presentation, you're going to do what he did. You're going to break the bird down like he did after cooking it, and you're going to do it before cooking it. You're going to cut the thigh and the drumstick and the breast off raw and cook them raw separately as pieces. Wings. The wings are going to cook like that. They're thin. Cooking time depends on thickness. Any recipe you read that says, cook your steak for 3 minutes on one side and 2 minutes on the other side, run like hell. Run like hell, because the temperature of the oven, the temperature of the air, radiant heat versus convection heat versus conduction heat. We discuss all of the thermodynamics of heat in the book. They're all different. They all impact the flavor, but it's the thickness of the meat that really impacts it. He said something really profound. If you need a lot of meat, don't cook a giant turkey. Cook 2 small ones. Absolutely, 2 small birds will cook faster, stay moister, be more tender than a giant bird. When you've got a giant breast like this, it takes a long time to cook all the way down to the center. And by that time, the exterior is drying out. So the thinner, the better. And even if you want, if you're going to do a breast like he did, you can even pound it. You can get a frying pan, lay it down, cover it with plastic, and beat it so it's flat. When it's flat, it's even in thickness. It cooks evenly. Because you know when you cook a chicken breast, for example, it's sort of teardrop shaped, kind of pear shaped, and that thin tip almost always overcooks. And the fat end can also be undercooked. So if you pound it flat, now it's even thickness, it cooks evenly. And it makes a better sandwich. So there's, you know, cooking is both an art and a science. It's all about thermodynamics and chemistry. It's a chemistry experiment every time you go into the kitchen or out on the grill. And everything he showed you in there, by the way, can be done outdoors. You don't have to do it in the oven. And I say cook your bird outdoors because you need that indoor oven for pie. I mean, you must have room for pie.
Oh my, I love pie.
You're gonna cook on your smoker.
Oh, I like to, okay. My standard, when I teach outdoor cooking, thank you very much. When I teach outdoor cooking, I teach master 2 temperatures on your grill or your smoker. And that is 225 and 325. Almost everything I cook at 225. But poultry, I take it up to 325 because I like crispy skin. Now, if you don't eat chicken skin, then don't worry, cook it at 225. If you don't eat turkey skin, cook it at lower temp. Always lower, dial it down. Guys, we're the worst offenders. Oh, we're gonna step on the gas. We're gonna get it hot. We're gonna cook it hot and fast. We cook too hot, we cook too fast. Heat is your enemy. Cook it low and slow. always dial down. 225 is the ideal number, but on poultry, I like to get it up to 325. That renders the fat in the skin. There's a lot of fat in the skin, and it gets the skin crispy. And it really works. And I just did a roast chicken last night, and I've got a gadget. They stopped making them, but I'm going to tell you guys about it. If you can find it, go for it. It's $35, and it's a little motor with a axle that sticks out and a fan. And it sits on a gas grill on the rotisserie bracket. You got gas grills? Yeah? Okay, so you got a gas grill, and there's a bracket to hold the rotisserie. This thing sits on that, and then that shaft goes into the oven, and the fan is metal, so it won't melt. And you turn it on with a battery, it's battery out, and it turns your gas grill into a convection oven. And they're $35 if you can find them. There's still a few left on Amazon. They stopped making them. And I'll tell you, it speeds up the cooking tremendously. And what great crispy skin you can get with one of these little fans. If they don't fix it, if they don't start making them again, I'm going to start making them. They're just tremendous. But regardless, there's a lot of interesting science. And Ray was very kind to speak nicely about the book. The book is essentially two books. The first half of the book is essentially a science book. Chapter 1 is all about heat. Chapter 2 is all about smoke. Chapter 3 is all about meat. And the chemistry and the physics involved. And because this is 2017, we don't want to know just do step 1, do step 2, do step 3. We want to know, why do I do step 1? Why do I do step 2? We have a strong interest in technology and science in this world. And so I try to explain it. I work with, there's a small name underneath mine, Professor Greg Blonder, Boston University. He's a physicist, a food scientist, used to be head of research at Bell Labs. Those of us at a certain age know about Bell Labs. They invented the, they invented the transistor, thank you. Solar cell. I mean, Bell Labs was like the great science research facility. And he was there, he ran their research department, and he's my science advisor, and he's the guy I go to for help. So there's a lot of fun, and I don't think it's thick. I don't think it's dull. I don't think it's over anybody's head. And in fact, last year it was the #1 best-selling barbecue book in the world. And 2 weeks ago, how many of you have ever heard of a website called Serious Eats?
Yeah.
Serious Eats? If you haven't heard of it, you got to go there. It's the best cooking website on the internet. Absolutely the best cooking website. There's a guy named Kenji Lopez-Alt who is their head, and he wrote the foreword to my book, but they just published a list of 22 cookbooks that every chef should have. That's a lot of cookbooks, but I got many more than that. And among them was Julia Child and Jacques Pepin and Paul Bocuse and LaRue's Gastronomique and Penelope Casas and this book. Way over my head. Yes, sir. 2 minutes? 2 minutes, wrap it up. Okay, so how about a couple of quick questions, and then let's eat. Come on, somebody's got a question or two. Hit me.
What about, you may have offered it, I forget who did now, earlier this summer I read about beer can chicken.
Oh, beer can chicken. Yeah, I am John Cass. You know that name?
Yes, I do.
He hates me. Absolutely hates me. He called me the chicken twerp, or the chicken twirl. Think about beer can chicken for a minute. You got a chicken, and you stick a beer can up its butt. Now, the chicken comes out of the fridge at 38 degrees. You're going to cook it to what's your temperature? What did I say for chicken and turkey?
165.
160, 160. What's boiling temp?
212.
How far apart are 165 and 212? About 30, 40 degrees apart, right?
47
The
degrees.
beer can never boils. The beer never evaporates. If you weigh the can before it goes in and weigh the can when it comes out, it weighs the same. In fact, sometimes it weighs more when it comes out because fat drips into it and fat lays on top of the beer, and then even if the beer got hot enough to boil, it couldn't escape the layer of beer on top. Now you stick it up the butt of the chicken, and so you only have a little headspace above the beer can where the beer can go. It can't get past the sides of the beer can because they're made out of metal. and it can't penetrate. And the chicken is 70% water. It is fully saturated like a saturated sponge. It can't penetrate. Beer can chicken is a great way to hold a chicken vertical where it looks really cute and really cool. And everybody who cooks beer can chicken says to me, but Meathead, my beer can chicken is wonderful. Of course it's wonderful. It's roast chicken. Roast chicken's always wonderful. You can't screw up unless you overcook a roast chicken. All you're doing is roasting a chicken sitting on a butt so it looks like Buddha, and it looks fantastic and it's very cool, but it doesn't work the way John Cass thinks it works. It doesn't work the way people think it does. The beer doesn't evaporate. The beer doesn't penetrate the meat. The beer can't flavor it. The beer has nothing to do with it, and you can't brown the inside of the bird.
Yep.
If you want really good chicken, butterfly it like I just talked about the turkey, or cut it into pieces and brown both sides. That was a setup. Like, did I pay you for that?
Yeah. I ran.
Sir.
You said the heat don't ever go above or master 225, 325.
That's when I'm talking about outdoor cooking. I think it's useful to master. Cooking is all about temperature and temperature control. So if you can master those two numbers, you're master of the grill.
Do you grill steaks at that low temperature?
No, there's one more temperature that I want you to master, and that's
600.
give her the roll. She's got Scotty. That's warp 10. Warp 10, and we don't have time. I can talk to you about steaks, but go to my website and read about reverse sear. Reverse sear is a technique for thick steaks, not thin steaks, that is absolutely a revelation. It's based on physics. It's really smart. It really works. I didn't invent it, but I have proselytized it. You're going to cook it at the start very low and slow, gently even cook it so that it's even temperature all throughout, and then at the end you're going to sear it, not at the beginning. And at the end you're going to pound it with energy, not at the beginning. If you pound it with energy at the beginning, you're going to get a brown crust, then a layer of brown, then a layer of tan, then a layer of pink, and finally in the center, it's medium rare where it's most tender and juicy. If you do my reverse sear technique, it'll be even color all throughout, medium rare, whatever your preference is. Medium rare is 130 to 135. Need a digital thermometer. Then you sear it at the end, you get the beautiful brown crust and perfect temperature inside.
How thick on the steak?
About 1.5 inches, I think, is ideal for reverse searing. Anything under an inch, you got to cook hot and fast. The old-fashioned way, just get it direct. There's 3 kinds of heat in a grill. You've got direct radiant heat. That's when you're right above the flames or right above the charcoal. That's radiant heat, like when you're in the sun and the sun's beating down on your neck. There's conduction heat. That's the hot metal on the grates that burns the surface. It brands the surface. It's conduction. Metal holds energy and conducts energy and brands the meat. And then there's convection heat, which is warm air flowing around the interior of the grill. And convection heat is the most gentle and the best heat for cooking. You can also use it for carrying smoke. When you're cooking a steak, you want to start with convection heat on the indirect side of the grill. All your coals on one side, all your burners on one side on high, then nothing on the other side, and I'm just getting the high sign.
Before you go,
Are you hungry?
will you just talk for